welcome back to my channel. So I just watched a show called Criminal Confessions, and on it was an episode about the Watts case. So the episode is 1 hour and 5 minutes long, and it was quite interesting. So it actually starts with the 911 call that was made by Nicole Atkinson. Nate talking about Chris, Shanann, Bella, and Cece, telling us all about them as neighbors and people and how they seemed to be the all-American type of family. So it starts off with the officer doing the wellness check, and that's when we all see the body cam footage. They talk about finding no evidence inside the house, no evidence of struggle or like they were looking for blood or any obvious signs of cleaning. They talked about the top bed sheet being a red flag because the house was so clean and tidy that because the bed sheet was missing, it just looked real odd. So they talked about the bed sheet being a red flag and Chris Watts's behavior being a red flag. So they take him down to the police station and do an interview, and they show him a picture of Bella and Cece, and he starts saying she loved those shoes and she loved that dress. Yeah, so that was instant red flags for them because he was speaking in past tense about the children. They talk about the affair with Nicole Kessinger real briefly. Agent Tammy Lee describes if you're telling the truth, you would be around a +2 on the lie detector, and if you were lying, you would be around a -4, and that would show deception. And it actually came up on Chris Watts's test. He was -18, so he was like showing signs of deception, and they went into investigation mode, no longer friendly interview type. They started really pressing him about what did he do. He then admitted to having an affair, but they already knew that. He was just sort of trying to throw them off track because they were turning up the heat on him. It was great hearing Agent Tammy Lee's side of the case. So I found this episode rather interesting to watch because a lot of people blame Agent Tammy Lee for putting it in Chris Watts's head, asking him, did Shanann have anything to do with hurting the children, or are you cleaning up for her? So that's when Chris Watts started the whole Shanann did it lie. But with that, they were able to find out exactly where Shanann and both the girls were. So Agent Tammy Lee goes on to describe how she was absolutely disgusted and felt sick once she found out where Shanann and the children were. It was really sad to see how upset Agent Tammy Lee was when she was speaking about this, and they really wanted to recover the bodies as soon as possible. It was 11 o'clock at night when they went to Survey 319 to excavate the dirt and get Shanann out. They speak about in numerous excavations done, bodies are usually laid out, but they spoke about Shanann being curled up as if she was just thrown in and discarded like trash. By the time they had recovered Shanann, it was 1:30 a.m., so they waited till the morning to recover the girls from the tanks. On the morning of the 16th, they arrived at Survey 319, knowing they were there to recover 2 small children. They talked about questioning if the children could even fit in the openings of the tanks, and also couldn't see them as they looked through the hatch, so they thought Chris could still be lying. And then one of the FBI agents found a tuft of hair along the inside of one of the hatches. Agent Tammy Lee cries as she describes the first tank being emptied. They pulled out Cece, still in her nightgown, because she had just gone to bed. Agent Tammy Lee describes how the second tank had Bella, and how she cannot get that image out of her head. The autopsies proved Shanann was innocent and Chris was guilty and solely responsible. Nate, the neighbour, talked about the utter disgust he had, knowing that Chris Watts was in his house, and shook his hand just hours after doing what he has done to his family. Agent Tammy Lee talks about the trial and how it would have gone on for years. But they got a call saying Chris Watts was pleading guilty to all charges. Tammy Lee said they didn't get to examine all the evidence or interview all witnesses, and felt like Chris Watts stopped the clock. In a sense, they felt like they didn't get to finish. Chris Watts was charged with 3 life sentences plus 84 years. He admitted what he done, but has never admitted to what really happened to Bella and Cece. Part of the plea agreement was Chris had to tell more about what happened that night. So they flew to Wisconsin to have one last conversation with Chris. They remind Chris that nothing they talk about can get him into any more trouble. They tell Chris the case is closed. Chris opened up about what happened, telling the agents the girls were alive that morning. He drove them to the oil site. It was a 1-hour drive to Survey 319. Cece was first. He used his hand. Bella watched as he took Cece up to the tank. Agent Tammy Lee cries as she talks about how Bella's last words haunt Chris, and how she hopes Bella's words haunt him for the rest of his life. Tammy Lee believes the last interview with Chris Watts, he was telling the truth. She believes he was telling the truth because it was much more horrible than what she had even let her mind go to, and how this was a complete act of evil by Chris Watts. Agent Tammy Lee then went on to say that nothing about this case makes sense to her. So that was the episode on Criminal Confessions. I thought it was well put together. It didn't really tell us any information that we didn't know about the case. I found this was actually very interesting because we got to hear things from Agent Tammy Lee as well as the attorney, Michael Rourke, neighbor Nate, and a couple of other people. So I hope you guys check it out.